everyone. Welcome to Empowered Hearts episode 4. This is going to be a good one. I'm just going to get Crystal. See, is this working? Hi.
Hey.
How are you?
Good. Yeah.
Good.
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm praying my dog will not attack the window while we're on this call because my cat's
Cat did not
outside. So,
Yeah.
come here.
We're going to put that out there.
Okay. We're going to go sit. Lie down. Lie down. Come here. Lie down.
If it happens, it happens. You can get up and
But
it's okay.
it's like a, oh God. Okay, no. Oh. Okay, come here. Come here. Come.
Okay,
One second.
this is
Come
normal
on.
for us. We usually have a little glitch or something happens. We have a very exciting episode, guys.
Okay.
I mean, they're all exciting, but this one in particular.
This is a good one.
Yeah.
And this is a really good one. And I wonder how everyone is feeling. Please drop in the comments. How are you guys feeling? The energy right now is so intense this Pisces season. I don't like Pisces season. It's not my favorite. It's like, what did I say the other day? It's like the whole year, everything that's like happened is like bundled up into like a pile of shit right now.
Yeah.
Like anything that you need to clear from last year is here for you to clear, and it is bubbling to the surface. And it's like this Piscean energy of like the second it turned Pisces season, like the day of, I was like, where's my head? It's not on my neck. Like I was like floating in the ether. So I'm like, Jesus.
Yeah, there's a lot of ego.
Yes. I physically felt dissociated, and then, so not grounded, dissociated, and then ego.
Yeah.
Major ego.
Yeah. Ungrounded.
Yeah.
Like today for me was very electric.
Yeah.
Charged.
Yeah. Today.
So then it makes me really tired.
I literally felt like I had fire growing in me today. Like, just watch out. I went to the gym and it was better, but still I was like, there's like internal fire going on.
At least
you have not Piscean energy. I don't know what this is.
At least you have tools. Well, we have the new moon coming up this weekend.
Okay.
So there's that. But
okay.
Yeah.
Well, okay. So our topics today are going to be being single, sex and celibacy, boundaries around sex and around being single, and just boundaries in general. Like, what are boundaries for? You know, how can you use them? What does that mean to have boundaries? Then we have the death cycle and what it feels like to be in a death cycle or in a death portal in your life, and then how you move through it, and then shadow work with relationships and how to handle them with grace.
Yeah.
So do you want to start off with I think you should start off.
Okay.
You start off.
Do you want to ask me a question, or you just want me to go?
So what does sex mean to you in the sense of how do you incorporate it in your life, with or without a relationship? Why is it important? And then you can talk about relationships and celibacy that move into that.
So for me, it was always like an intimate exchange.
Okay.
Right? Like, how do I say this. That's what I have in my head. That's like, to me, that's how I value it now. So to have a connection with someone for me was super important before I would like even go there.
Mm-hmm.
And so once I was able to like trust that person and let them in, then I was comfortable like being intimate. And then once that part happened, I felt like I always allowed people to cross my boundaries and I would just give myself to them whenever they wanted it.
Okay.
And that's not healthy either.
No.
Right? And so as I grew up, I learned that giving my body away to somebody doesn't necessarily mean that they love me.
Right.
And,
For sure.
and yeah, and I learned the hard way with that. Walked through that many, many times. and and so now I've been single for like 3 years and I have not engaged at all.
Okay. And how do you cope with that? Like, is it something that, like, does that work for your life? Or, like, have you ever, so to say, like, colored outside of your boundaries of not having a connection? No.
No, I haven't.
Okay.
It was never really like a driver for me. I feel like it would be if I had a connection with somebody who um was like, it was balanced connection where
Mhm.
like it's like a soul connection. You meet each other on the same wavelength. I
Yeah.
think and I think I've never really had that.
Okay.
So I believe, and they say, don't they say like your 40s are your best years?
I think they just keep saying that. Like it does, and it does
Every
keep getting better. Like I actually heard the other day I was watching something and they were like, the woman was like, "You're not even 50 yet. You have no idea what you're talking about." And I was like, that gives me so much
oh
hope and excitement
yeah
for years to come. Because we often can get in this bubble of like, oh, we're not happily married or with
yeah
a family at a certain age, and that can um, mean something. But really, a lot of like, where are most of our brains at, 30 or wherever?
yeah I agree, Ariel.
Every year we're in our best. This is the only reality we live in.
Yeah,
Absolutely. And it
because
does keep getting better. So I'm going to say at 50 or 40, like you said, is going to be amazing.
I was gonna say 40s, they say that your sex drive just goes through the
Oh,
roof.
oh,
Yeah,
great.
because I've never really had one. So
What the hell am I going to do? I don't need any help with my sex drive.
that's a good problem. That's a good problem to have. Now we're gonna turn the table to you, Morgan.
Okay, well, you know, I, I definitely do have a really high sex drive,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that being single and having a really high sex drive and not wanting to just have sex for the act of sex anymore is tough. I'm just gonna say this. Ariel writes hashtag horny 40. Haha, dead. I love that. So, like, that can be hard because if you
Yeah,
like, if I genuinely do want a connection with somebody, how do you navigate your sex life with like wanting a connection
yeah,
if you don't have one? So then you're left with yourself and your own devices, and you have to like accept that as something that that's what you want, and it's more important to have a connection over just having sex. And I definitely, in my 20s, like, didn't feel this way. But I will say also, I definitely did connect with people by using sex to connect with them.
yeah,
And then realizing after, well, like, I really like this person, like, that's why I slept with them. And then, like, people didn't feel the same way. And it's like, I think that, like, sex too early on muddles the water. Like, it
yeah.
muddies the water. You know what I mean? So I'm sure people in their 20s will disagree. could, depending on who you are. Maybe like in your early 30s, you can go both ways. Or if you haven't like done any work on yourself, you can maybe like not see that point of view. Or if you already just know that in your soul, you can see that point of view. But it took me a little bit longer to see that point of view.
That makes sense.
So
Yep.
definitely now there will be like horny and 40 and like, but it's only worth it for me if there is a soul
Yeah.
connection.
Yeah. And like also there's lots of ways to, like you said, on your own.
Yeah.
You know, it's also creative energy.
It
really
is.
Good for creating content and writing and all the things.
Okay, so how can you explain that to me? How would you be able to use sacral energy as, because like that's where our sex drive lives.
Yep.
I find it also lives in my solar plexus.
Okay.
So like it's like mixed between like my willpower and what I want.
Yeah.
And like there's something about that that's sexy to me mixed with my sacral creative energy. So like how would you use that in creative flow?
That is a really great question. I honestly feel, and I'm going to attach it to like my cycle.
Okay.
Right? Like when you ovulate, the ovulation
Yep.
cycle, which would be like when your sex drive is the highest. Normally, that's not always true. Sometimes it's before you get your cycle, right? Right before you get your bleed. That is when I have the most creative flow.
Okay, so it's just like a natural thing.
I just feel it. It's like oh, I don't know how to describe it in words.
I'm gonna like consciously make note of this. It's funny though, like I would say last week I was super creative.
Yeah.
And that would have been, so I'm ovulating now, so that would have been before ovulation. So like,
yeah,
I wonder,
right.
Sorry?
Right when you come out of your bleed.
Yeah. So like I wonder, is it different for everybody?
Could be.
Huh.
I mean, don't we always feel the best when we come, like right when we're done our bleed? We do.
Yeah.
Right? And so that could attribute to it too.
Right. Okay. I'm gonna definitely pay attention to this of like, you know, my creativity versus like horniness, because like that's really interesting.
Yeah. See like if you can channel it in a certain way. Like I just notice when my channel is wide open and I just have so many downloads, and then I channel it into creative flow.
Huh. I often find with this, okay, how do I say this? So like when I'm in my feminine energy, which would be probably when I want to receive, so it would be probably when I would want to have sex, would be the least times that I'd want to be creative because I don't want to pour out in my masculine energy.
That makes sense.
I am creative in my masculine energy. That's really interesting.
That is very interesting.
It's very interesting.
Yeah. I like it though.
I wonder how we can channel it the other way. I would love some tips. If anybody has tips on that, Ariel, if you're still around, I would love to know.
Okay. I'll look into that.
So I think also, let's talk about celibacy. I think also practicing celibacy, I will say this is probably the first time in my life, like the past year and a bit, that I've like consciously practiced celibacy.
Yeah.
Where I'm like, I'm going to like, this is how it's going to go, and this is what I'm not going to do, or this is what I'm going to do. And I find that it gets what?
Ariel. And the follicular phase is the high sex drive according to Google.
Thank you. So I find that like consciously practicing celibacy and wanting a connection in lieu of celibacy is, or am I saying that right? Like, I want a connection in order to break my celibacy. Like, it just doesn't come any other way for me.
Yeah.
And I think that that's just taken a lot of practice and like taken self-love, and it's taken work.
Yeah.
And you're the same?
Getting to know myself. So I was in a relationship from the age of 12 up until 3 years ago. Like,
Okay. Wow.
two back. And so you don't know who the hell you are when you're 12.
Right.
You're trying to fit in, to the world and be like, what am I going to wear today that where everyone's going to like me? Like that's the age that you're in. You're all the things. So up until like my marriage ending 3 years ago, I didn't really know who I was. I was just starting to like get into like getting to know myself on a deeper level. So the last 3 years for me have really been like figuring out what it is that I want in another person. Like, what do I want my relationship to look like? And really healing my relationship to self and my self-worth and my power and, like every aspect. Yeah. It has been really good for me to not give myself away to other people and kind of, I would say selfish, that's the wrong word, but like hold my own boundary.
Right.
It's been really good.
I definitely think like that's what you learn, right? Is it's like, I don't know if this really fits with me anymore, like this person or whatever. You're like, just for like one night of sex, is it actually worth it? You take on their energy, you take on, their shit. It can, depending like where you are energetically in yourself and your self-worth journey, it can pull at that for sure, because when we get those hormones, like when you exchange oxytocin, like you physically start to yearn for the person. It's just what happens. So we get oxytocin, we're like, we get the dopamine, and then it's like, well, is this really worth it? Like, is this person aligned with my life? And like I said earlier, like it can blur the connection. Yeah. So I think building a foundation first, I mean, you know, like hopefully, but yes, if you do like have a strong pull towards somebody and you obviously want to have sex, like it is what it is. I'm not saying that like people hold out forever, and like it can happen on the second or third date, like it does happen, and there's nothing wrong with that. Yeah. It's just like, can you stay true to yourself? And I think that is the most important point here. It's like, can you stay true to yourself? Can you make sure that like the person that you're exchanging your time, energy, body with, are they going to respect you? Are you respecting you? Because often there can be times where we are not respecting ourselves in order to please somebody else.
Do you think that there's people who you have to first know yourself? And in order to stay true to yourself, you have to first know yourself. And it's so true.
Absolutely.
So true. Yeah. Very valid point. Do you think that there's people who can have like a one night stand and no strings attached?
Yeah. I mean,
and like feel good about it and be like, that was amazing, and like not second guess it. That's where my mind goes when
I mean, like, without like putting anybody on blast on here, because there are people that like I work with and stuff that have joined this live. I'm gonna just do my best to like not call anybody out. But I mean, yes. And are they men? Yes. Women, I don't know. I don't know. Like, I feel like you have to be in touch with yourself to be able to feel a certain way. So if you're like completely robotic, just running on like your subconscious mind, and not conscious of life, maybe you can.
Yeah.
I don't know. I would love to know. Yeah. I'm gonna put up a poll of that. I am so curious.
We should do a poll.
I'm dying to know, because I'm sure people would say yes, but then I would want to dig and be like, well, hold on, wait, but like, but what about in this scenario? And that, like, how do you feel about this exact interaction. Like peel the onion back a little bit of like maybe what they're not consciously seeing.
Yeah.
And like, I don't think it's possible, but I could
And
be wrong.
like, what is the intention? That's the word. What is the intention behind it? Is it just for pleasure?
Well, I think for sure. I mean, okay, so here's an example. So people have like sex parties and swap partners all the time. And so that is definitely just for pleasure. Like that's, I mean, maybe it is for intimacy, but I don't
Yeah.
think so. So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think that it maybe depends on who you are. Like it depends on who you are, it depends on what your needs are, it depends like, you know, what your sex drive is, maybe if you are like what your gender is, maybe, I don't know.
Yeah.
I would love to know that.
We're gonna have to dig a little bit in this.
We're gonna put our FBI hats on and dig.
Yeah. And you know what? This segues nicely into our next topic, which is boundaries.
Okay.
So, what have you learned as far as self boundaries
Ariel, why are you laughing?
through celibacy, Morgan?
Oh, can you ask me that again?
What have you learned about boundaries through your time of celibacy and being single?
That staying true to myself is so important to me. And it doesn't matter what somebody else might be posing to offer me, that my boundaries and like what I need and what I desire is the fundamentally most important thing
Mm-hmm.
ever. So it's from having space from people physically, it's really allowed me to be able to listen to myself and to know what I want and to know what I need. And so when I, let's say, meet somebody, I can be like, that is a fuck yes or a fuck no.
Yeah.
And there's like, we're not going to cross that even a little bit. Like there's no temptation even, because I've spent time alone and I have my boundaries of, you know, what my musts are and what I need to feel good. And if that is not in alignment, like any person or scenario, it's just like an instant no.
Yeah.
Or an instant yes.
And you're just really good at holding firm boundaries.
Yeah, like it just doesn't seem worth it anymore.
Yeah.
You know, like I think the more work that you do on yourself and the more that you get comfortable in your own skin and with your own company, it just doesn't seem worth it to, you know, to cross your own boundaries. Like you know what you want, and why would you then cross your own boundaries for like for a part of you that's maybe yearning for something. Like if it's yearning for somebody else or yearning for something from somebody else, I think that that is a part of you that maybe doesn't feel loved.
Yeah.
Or there's a part it's like parts work at that point. It's like what part of you needs what and what can you give them to feel whole?
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah. What about you?
I was thinking about this as you were talking, sort of. I think for me, having my boundaries crossed so many times
Mm-hmm.
was what kind of forced me into being able to implement a strong boundary. And one of that has to do with my body and learning to like fully love my body.
Right.
And every aspect of who I am, and not trying to change it all the time to look a certain way or to be a certain way or to give myself over to somebody else, physically or like in looks at all.
Right.
Also learned that boundaries, that I have like non-negotiable boundaries where there's certain things that I will absolutely do every single day, and that's just it. Like, you know, going for my walks and putting my phone away at certain times or shutting my notifications off, or, you know, like there's such a wide range of different types of boundaries,
Yeah,
but they all ultimately protect us,
for sure.
right?
And I think they like, yeah, that's a really good way of saying it. They ultimately protect
Yeah,
us. And they ultimately keep us staying true to who we
yeah,
are. And if you can be happy on your own and in your own company, like you should be able to feel who you are and that way with somebody. And if you're not able to for whatever reason, like that means your boundaries are being crossed
yeah.
in some way. And like whether you're doing it or they're, I mean, ultimately you are doing it because you're allowing it. But if they're, you know, being able to hold firm and stay true to who you are, whether part of you wants that connection with somebody else or not. Because I think the whole of you needs to jive with the connection and rather than just a part of you. And I think that is like a really strong piece of this.
One of the boundaries that, thank you, Ariel, for that beautiful reflection. Thank you. One of the boundaries that I have learned that has been the absolute freaking hardest one for me is saying no.
Yes.
Saying no. I've made a commitment and now I do not want to go. Learning that spiritual sensitivity is something that I'm born with and I can't run away from it.
Right.
Fought that one in December, died 1,000 ego deaths, and then I'm like, hey, you're gonna accept your path here and your purpose and your all of who you are, and you're gonna make it okay to set a boundary when it doesn't feel like in alignment anymore, because that's the thing, is like things shift and change. And so learning to say no.
That's a big one. And that's a big one for me as well.
Yeah.
I think like, I know myself and I'm like, this is what I want, this is what I don't want. But then, like I said, like that part of you that maybe still wants something, even though the whole of you doesn't,
Mm-hmm.
that's when you really have to have your no in
Yeah.
check because you can then do something out of like a void in you or like trying to fill a void that's really not for like your highest outcome, and you'll end up doing that and then there'll be regret. And so having to just, like you said, like say no and not care if the other person or the situation or whatever validates you, like you were saying earlier about like your looks and your body, like you can't worry about if someone else isn't going to accept you. You got to hold your no
Yeah.
to what actually feels good to you. If you know like this is not for your highest good and you know that you don't actually want to hang out with this person and you want to pursue a relationship, and if that's deeply what you do desire, then having sex with them once or twice isn't going to serve you.
Yeah.
And so
It's
having your like no in place to prevent that from happening is so important. Like I see people do this all the time. They're like, oh, it's okay, I was drunk, I just did it once. It's like, but you don't feel good about it.
yeah.
Like you don't actually feel good about it. And having like a no and being like, this is what I want, and like that's something to be proud of.
Yeah, it is. It's
Like
empowering.
it is amazing to say like this is what I want, and stand with that. Like that is an awesome place to be.
Somebody said that to me once, and it really landed. And they said, like someone who stands in their confidence and can like just discern exactly what they want without justifying it or explaining it, like that is something to look up to, and you will notice those people,
Right.
right? Like they're not unapologetic, like they just know,
It's just like,
or
yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I love that so much.
me too.
So yeah, having your no
Mhm.
is as powerful as having your yes, right? Being able to hold your no. And like for you guys that are listening, like it's okay to say no, even if a part of you wants to say yes for validation. Know that whatever you desire for your highest outcome is really what is meant for you, and having that no in place will lead to obtaining that goal, whatever it is. Like if you want to go have like be it like at swinger parties and do that. Like there's no judgment. Like go and do that. If that really is what you want for your highest outcome, then do that.
Yeah.
But if it's not, then hold that boundary.
Own it.
What did she write? What are some tools or practices people can apply to people who didn't honor the boundary but are looking to repair with self and make a different choice next time, like how to navigate shame? That's a good one. I would say self-acceptance of, what, so let's say if you did sleep with somebody or act on something and it was like really not of your highest good. I think it's giving yourself self-acceptance and forgiveness for acting from a part of you that was perhaps looking for a certain outcome or for out of just desire. And then like, so forgiveness and shame can't exist together. I strongly believe this. So if you can truly work on forgiveness over and over and over again with yourself and really look at the parts of you that feel shame, so you want to actually feel into the shame and feel it wholeheartedly, and then sort of eat that up with self-forgiveness and self-acceptance. And like you can talk to yourself, you can put your hand in your heart and say like, I forgive you, it's okay what happened, and then come at yourself with a place of understanding of why you acted the way you did. Because I find that when we acknowledge why we did what we did and acknowledge the part of us that was maybe looking for validation or just wanted to have fun or just didn't want to, play by the rules tonight and just wanted to do something and now feels shame, acknowledging that part of us is what our parts of us are looking for. So I think like acknowledgement is really helpful as well.
I love that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, in my experience, I have really learned to listen to my body. Does it feel safe?
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that my acupuncturist told me, actually, because she saw me coming. She's like, she's a people pleaser. She said, why don't you practice having a no week? And she said, what you do is you say no to every single thing that happens. 7 days.
But wait,
you just say,
hold on. Let me understand this. So like no to everything or no to the things that you just want to say no to?
No to everything. 7 days.
Okay.
And why? The reason is because it is hard for people to say no.
It is.
Because they're always worried about how the other person is going to receive it, especially people who are like sensitive and like empathetic.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, I never ever said no. I was always like yes, and then I would complain about it, or yes, I'll just do this to please you. It was always about the other person. So she told me that. She said, the more you say no and don't justify it, just no, I don't want to, or no, I can't make it, the more you do it, the easier it gets. And then once you're good at it and you feel more comfortable with saying no, then lean in and listen to your body. Like, right away if it's a yes or a no. You can feel it.
Really interesting. I like that.
It's a great practice.
I think that
and it's
like practice this without knowing. I'm just not feeling it this week for whatever this doesn't even have to be with sex or relationships or anything. It's just like I am just not agreeable this week. Like I'm just not agreeable. And I think I probably just flat out just said no. Probably just because.
Yeah.
And it's just I think saying no creates space for yourself to process and like you said, to be able to listen to yourself. So like don't feel bad, guys, for saying no. It's okay. It's really okay. Say no, you know, it's okay. Just like it's a no, and it like that's really cool. I really like that.
Yeah. And yeah, you're welcome. You are welcome. It was hard for me.
Yeah,
It's
it
hard.
was. I think it was for me as well, um, but it's not now.
No, now I'm like, no,
Yeah, now it's just so
no.
yeah. Like that would be a really good practice for people who are uncomfortable with saying no to just say no for a week. Like try
Yep.
it out.
Yep.
Try it on like a pair of shoes. See how
Yep.
it fits. It's going to be uncomfortable. It's going to be like a cheap pair of shoes that don't really fit well. And you're going to be like, this is uncomfortable. But then like as you wear them, they like magically turn into like nice leather.
Well, and also like the part about like the second part is not to justify it.
Yeah.
That is also important.
Yeah.
Because when you try to explain yourself so that the other person understands how you're feeling, it's a wasted energy.
Yeah.
It's not their
Because I think
job to expect.
you're like crossing the boundary right there by explaining yourself.
Yeah, you're letting them cross your boundary
Yeah.
because you care more about how they're going to receive it than laying your firm boundary down in the first place. And it's like, you probably will feel guilty at first, again,
Right.
because you're worried about how they're going to receive it. And then it just becomes easier as you do it.
I love that.
Yeah.
I think that wraps up that topic.
Yeah.
So we'll move into, I'm sure there are so many people that can relate to this, especially right now. What is a death cycle and how do you move through it?
A death cycle happens when your belief system is shifting.
Okay.
So what happens is you come up against a limiting belief in your energy.
Okay.
My own experience, for example. I questioned myself if I was worthy of actually like having a successful business and holding clients. And I know that that is not true, but my body still believed that to be true.
Mm-hmm.
So when I noticed it and I faced it head on, right? So now I'm leaning further into this limiting belief. Then your body starts to feel a certain way about it. And you start to go through a space where you feel activated,
Mm-hmm.
irritated, um, sometimes even just like low, sad, depressed. You question everything. Your ego is so loud. You start questioning your entire being. It's like, I don't even know what I'm doing. I don't know if I trust. I don't know. Like, it's just, it starts, you almost start to spiral.
Yeah.
Is what it feels like. And then you know that you're in the death cycle. So what I've gotten really good at staying open during these spaces, because I know that if I don't resist it, it's going to move a whole lot quicker.
That's a really good point. Yep.
Right? It's like I always bring up this terminology, and you haven't had kids, but if you're in labor and your body's contracting and you resist it, it's going to be one, way more painful, and two, it's going to take way longer. And it's the same with the death cycle. It's like if we can, and a lot of people are scared to do this because they're scared that if they go really deep into this belief, they may find out that it's actually true. And so they stop themselves.
I find that what's stopped me in the past going in full into like a death cycle is I'm scared I'm going to lose myself in it.
Yeah, and that's important.
But that's actually what you need to do to come out of it. So,
you're gonna lose the ego part.
right.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
So, but my ego was like, don't do it. Like, to hold on for dear life. Don't go into it. Like, but like, I went through a death cycle in January. It was like, just let it be.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm not creating content. I'm not working on my business. I'm not talking to my people. And I just had to let it be because like fighting against it was so inauthentic. And I think honoring how you're feeling in a moment of like a death cycle, like it's gonna feel like your world is literally collapsing.
That's exactly what happens because I explain it. This is how I see it as a visual. We get into a space where we create like the shell around us, which we would say is our current reality, right? Like this is now everything we know to be true.
Yeah.
You the death cycle and that shell starts to crumble. And so everything feels scary. You don't feel safe. You don't feel protected. You can't see ahead. You don't know what's coming. And it's just like, what do I grab a hold of?
Yeah.
What?
And I think like you feel so vulnerable and like grabbing a hold of nothing is the point. And I think like grabbing a hold of vulnerability, if like you were to like word this in a sense of having your ego make sense of this, would be like really grip tightly onto vulnerability if you're going to grip tightly onto anything. And I know that's kind of like a paradoxical sentence, like hold tightly onto vulnerability because vulnerability is open, but to have your ego understand what you need to do like that, I think that would be a good way to explain it.
Yeah.
Like hold on to nothing but your vulnerability.
Yeah, because if you allow the vulnerability to be okay, if you allow how you're feeling to be okay, if you allow yourself to feel it and let it really like honestly sit there instead of trying to shift out of it, which is what we do, it alchemizes so quickly. So quick.
Right.
And then you have that moment of like it's where it lands in your body and you just feel the shift. It's like a profound moment that you're like, holy crap, right?
It's almost like it, I just got like a visual of it, almost like it's you know when you burn something on your stove and it turns into like it's like burnt and like crispy. It's almost just like it needs to like burn off and like fade away and like turn into dust. Like it has to do its thing. You can't like scrubbing it. I mean, you could, but like that's going to create friction and you just have to like let it burn off on its own. And you do that by, like you said, staying open.
A really good example that I just thought of is like when I witness somebody who is burnt out, like to the nines, right? And all they do is complain about life, how hard it is, all the things. And you say to them, well, like, are you taking any space for yourself, right? And then what ends up happening is they usually get sick, right? Because they're not resting, they're not doing the thing. And then, boom, death cycle. What are we learning here? Well, sometimes we have to get really sick to actually rest and give my body what it needs. So for that person to accept it and sink into it and let it be okay is so challenging. So like you said, grabbing a hold of vulnerability and staying open and just allowing the course to play out and do anything that you can to hold yourself through it.
I think letting go of control, for sure. Like letting go, because, remember in December or like November, I was sick for 7 weeks. And I kept fighting the sickness. I was like, no, I'm going to get better. I'm going to get better. I'm going to continue with my business and on this trajectory and like, da, 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 da. I was like, I'm doing it this way, and like, I was so excited. And looking back now, it's like I was so excited to like become this person that I wanted to become. I was like racing towards it, and then I got sick. And what I didn't understand is that who I was racing to become didn't need to be in a race. It was just who I was becoming.
Yeah.
And that person can move slowly, and that person can relax. But like in my mind, I was like, I have to be this person. I have to be this person. But like really who that person was who I was becoming, and I didn't need to be anybody. And then getting sick forced me to stop that like forcing of energy. So I think getting sick is hard,
Yeah.
but it's sometimes really necessary. And like, when you are in a death cycle and things start, because like I don't think it doesn't crumble all at once. It'll be like
No.
one block and then another block and then
Yeah.
like and then incident happens, like my toe is broken, and then it's like my fingernail fell off, and then it's like why is my hair falling out, like it'll be like these random things, and it's like then my back is seizing, and then it's just like nothing is
Yeah.
working, and because you have to like and it's like it has to happen, it has to fall apart in order to rebuild.
Oh,
It's like a tower card moment, just like let the ship burn.
it's like the Four Seasons, right? Like you
I was
have
like, what, the hotel?
well, no, winter,
Yeah.
the death cycle, right? All the trees, like there's nothing on the trees, everything's dead.
Yep.
And you have spring,
Yep.
summer, fall, like it's constant. And our like soul evolution is the same. We will constantly
Yeah.
go through these cycles.
I think what's really important to note is you can't outrun it, and it needs to happen, and it's going to happen again.
Yeah.
Like it's going to happen again. And like this is, like you said, it's just like part of the seasons. Like, yep, you're going to hit winter, and you just got to let it die.
So let it die.
Like it's gonna die anyway, so you like hoping and praying it not to be winter, which is me every time physical winter comes. I'm like, no, because I'm not good with change.
Maybe
Every year I'm like,
winter, Morgan.
pardon?
Maybe that's why you hate winter.
Because I resist death cycles.
No, because that's when it happens.
My death cycles?
Yeah, didn't you just say it happens in winter?
No, like I don't know, but yes, that is what happens. Literally, that's what happens is I go through death cycles, I guess, in winter. But I don't know. Maybe that's why I've always wanted to know, why don't I like winter? The second I see a tree changing color, I'm like, no, get me out of here.
And I'm
I
like,
hate fall.
oh, fall is my favorite, and Christmas is coming.
No,
Bring the decorations out.
no, like all of my childhood trauma that still lives in my body around Christmas. I hate Christmas.
I know.
I reject it. No, like I probably need to go to hypnotherapy about this to figure out what it is.
I'm gonna help you love Christmas.
Okay.
You got to stay open though, Morgan.
I know.
Okay.
I actively work on it, and it's just a lot. Like I don't know. See?
Oh, she agrees. Okay, well, Ariel.
There's something about Christmas. I don't know what it is. I wonder who else feels this way. It's the forced. Okay, this is what I don't like. I'm just going to say this. It's this third dimensional world we live in this like, this is how it's supposed to go. We're supposed to be happy on this day. And growing up, that was not my reality. And so it gave me this feeling of not being part of. And I know I'm not the only one. So Christmas rolls around and I'm like, let's be happy. Like that's the energy that's coming at me. And I'm like, like it just like the pressure of like, let's be happy and let's all sit around and have like a lovely dinner or follow, Christianity, or like, what would it be?
Probably,
Forgive my ignorance.
probably Christianity, yeah.
Christianity. That like now we're all supposed to just like ignore everything that's actually going on and have a nice dinner. I don't roll that way. Like that goes against my core beliefs. Do I believe there should be like there can be a celebratory time? Yes, but it's like the forcefulness of we must be happy and joyous and all this nonsense.
Yeah,
like it just
And
No,
that's not true.
I know, but that's what it makes me feel like, and I don't like it.
And the way that you feel is 100%
I
valid.
know.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I would love other people's perspective on this of like what does it actually mean to deal with holidays, and
Yeah.
like we're getting way off track,
It's
but
okay.
what does it mean to deal with
This
holidays?
is
Because I
actually
can
no
get into
fun.
like this conversation about the calendar and how this is all fake and like
Yeah.
it's all made up anyway. It's like these are I am okay with celebrating
Yeah.
birthdays, but like then we're getting into Easter and like all this nonsense. It's like who actually made this up? Like let's think about that for a
Yeah.
second. Who is telling us we have to have Easter? The Bible? Or like,
Yep.
and with Christmas, like why do we have to celebrate that? Is it the government? Like what is it?
Yep.
Like what is it? I don't like it. There's rules around the way that we have to live our lives, and that bugs me.
Yeah. And I understand that completely. What I love about Christmas, honestly, is the decorations.
One sec, my cat, I need to let her in.
Okay. I'll just tell everyone on here. I love the light, the white, like lights. This my favorite. It's like the ambiance of like the Christmas tree and like having the feeling and the fireplace decorated. And I'm a very like dim light person. Like I don't like bright lights on, so when I have my Christmas decorations out, that's all that's lit up. And it's just so like quaint and magical to me. It's like magical. And my love language is giving gifts. So that's the other.
Okay.
Now my family Christmases weren't like, oh, this is so fun and like joyous and all. There's always drama. But that's like life in general. So
That's interesting. Okay, well, I don't know. I would love to know more about this, like people's perspectives on holidays and
yeah.
like it's Christmas. It's like the one time I'm just like, oh, like I have resistance in my body about it.
Yeah.
So I would love to know how other people have
Yep.
navigated this.
Yep.
So the last topic on tonight, we've gotten way off track, but that's okay. I don't know how we ended up on holidays and Christmas, but
Winter.
shadow work with relationships and how to handle them with grace. So my dog is snoring. So shadow work with relationships. So I'm going to share a personal story. So I have, like I have a very small family. It's just my dad who is alive and myself. And my dad and I have had like from my perspective, it's a very oil and water type of relationship.
Mm-hmm.
We're very different, but we somehow blend, or not blend, or just we're together. And so I have found it challenging to navigate this relationship with him. I didn't find he was maybe the best father growing up in certain ways. And I found it very challenging to have him, to feel like he was there for me. And so growing up, it really gave me this feeling of not feeling seen, felt seen by my dad. So I didn't feel seen. And so I've had this like inner child in me always needing to be have my dad see me and see me and see me. And I never felt that he has. And so really having this journey of becoming comfortable with who I am and loving myself, and having boundaries, like we talked about before, has really allowed me to approach him as an adult, as me, the adult, and being able to house my inner child and not have this neediness of validation from him anymore. And I think being able to have like a gentle relationship with him as two adults and not as a father and like an inner child who's like dying for his approval and love. And so I've been able to find grace by doing my own shadow work with myself with him. And I wanted to talk about this because I know how many people have challenging relationships with their parents, right? And I wanted to share that, like, the more that you're comfortable with yourself and you hold your own boundaries, you hold your nose. Like, this is a really good way to tie this up. You hold your nose, you're firm with your yeses and your nos, you're firm with your boundaries, that it's easier to navigate challenging relationships.
Yeah, it's true.
So,
And
yeah.
Yeah, and you walked yourself through that this weekend very quickly.
Yeah, it was just like, wow, like I can be Morgan the adult and spend time with my dad and not feel less than, or why isn't he validating me, or why didn't he love me the way he should have.
Yeah.
And instead just enjoy the time with my father because I'm solid in my own two shoes.
Yeah.
I'm solid in my own energy.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So I just wanted to share that, and I wanted to see if there was like any reflections you had around like navigating challenging relationships. Like, how do you handle it?
Oh, I think parents can be like one of our biggest triggers because there's so many layers involved. And what I try to always remember is that the way that they handle us, or like the way that they respond to us, has actually nothing to do with us. And the way that it mirrors back to who they are as a person. Mm-hmm. And so the more that I gave them permission to be who they are and let that be okay without trying to search for something deeper, not saying that I still don't get, like triggered, because I do. Mm-hmm. Just letting them be who they are, and just letting that be enough, and knowing that they can't be more for us than they are for themselves.
That's true.
Right? And so, like, I remember Victoria said one time, like, your parents did the best they could with what they know.
Yeah.
And it's so true. It's just like, like me as a parent, I'm doing the best that I can with what I know, and that's all I can do. And so there's like this level of just like understanding, I think.
Yeah. I think understanding that parents are your parents, and they're going to do the best they can with what they have. And this goes for any relationship. Like, people are going to do the best they can with what they have. And that doesn't always mean that they have to be your people. It doesn't always mean they have to be like in your inner circle, or in, like your close proximity, but like giving understanding to that, and then holding your boundaries. Like, this is what I want. This is what I stand for. And you don't have to be flimsy on your boundaries because somebody else doesn't know how to handle their own energy.
So true. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think that wraps this up. This was really good.
Yeah, we covered a lot.
We did. And we have something special to share. Mm-hmm. So we have decided that we're actually going to do one. So what we're doing with these podcasts is we were planning on having 4 IG lives, and then we're going to shift over into YouTube and or Spotify, which Ariel has been gracefully watching us, and she's going to help us with that.
Yay!
So
thank you, Ariel.
I've really enjoyed doing this though. Like, the conversations are so potent as always. And we've decided that we're going to do one more episode, and to celebrate that and to celebrate you guys supporting us, we want to do another Empowered Hearts giveaway. So Crystal and I did a giveaway. When would it have been? Probably in January?
Yeah.
It would have been January. And so we gave away an empowerment session and a card reading. and we're going to do that again. So we are going to write a post about it. So if you guys like, follow, and share, we will put you guys in to win an empowerment session with me and a card reading from Crystal. So it's going to be great. And we're going to do one more episode on IG Live, and then we will officially move our podcast over to YouTube and Apple and Spotify.
Yeah. I'm excited.
Me too.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone, for coming tonight. Thank you, Ariel, for being such a support. And
so much. We love you.
Love you so much. Bye.